welcome to the deep dive. So let's just jump right in. Those website permission requests,
Oh, yeah.
microphone, location, camera, we've all seen them pop up. You've probably clicked allow or block, maybe without thinking too hard about it.
Definitely.
Today, we're digging into how these actually work and maybe more importantly, how you can control them without, constantly breaking things while you browse.
Exactly. And for you listening, especially if you've ever declined a permission and then suddenly the website seems broken, understanding this stuff is really key.
Right.
It puts you back in control of your privacy, keeps things smoother.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that while lots of browsers use the same base, that Chromium Engine Brave browser actually takes a pretty different path for managing these.
It really does.
So our mission today, let's call it that, is to unpack Brave's specific system. We want to show you how it gives you much more fine-grained control than maybe you're used to with Chrome or Edge.
Yeah. Empower you to handle these settings confidently. Better privacy, fewer headaches. That's the goal.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So the standard way in most Chromium browsers.
Right. So think Chrome, Edge, usual suspects. When a site asks for permission, let's say, for your location, you grant it. That permission typically applies globally for the entire website domain.
So give me an example. Like if I let google.com Maps use my location,
Yeah.
it just sort of has that access anytime Google Maps code is running.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a small embedded map on my local news site.
Exactly that, precisely. And the lifetime of these permissions is usually pretty blunt. It's either allow forever, basically, or deny, full stop.
Which can lead to problems, right? You grant access for maybe one specific thing, just temporarily, but then that website just keeps that permission indefinitely, even if you hardly ever go back there directly.
Yeah, it's not ideal for privacy. You grant it once, maybe forget all about it.
Totally.
Right.
Okay, so that's the standard way. Now, Brave,
Okay.
this is where it gets quite different.
Right. Brave gives you much more refined control, and it does this in really two main ways. The first big one is something they call per-site partitioning of permissions.
Per site partitioning. Okay, unpack that. How does that actually work for me, the user?
Well, imagine you could let a website use your microphone only when you actively go to its video call page,
Okay.
but block it automatically if that same service tries to pop up in a little widget on some other random website you're visiting.
I see. So it's context aware.
Exactly. Brave lets you set different permissions for the exact same website, but it depends on where you encounter it. So you visit site.example directly. You can set permissions A, B, C.
Right.
But if site.example is embedded inside cats.com, you could have totally different permissions just for that situation. D, E, F, maybe?
And then different again if it's embedded on dogs.com.
Precisely. Another independent set of rules. It offers way more control.
Wow, okay. That sounds like a huge privacy win. So just to make sure I've got it. Standard browser, I allow site.example the mic. It has the mic everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah.
But in Brave, I could say, okay, mic allowed only when I'm directly on site.example, but absolutely not when it shows up embedded on some forum I'm reading.
You got it. That's the power of partitioning. The site can't just leverage the permission you granted in one place across every single context it appears in. You're much more in charge.
That's very clear. Okay, so that's partitioning. What was the second big improvement Brave makes?
The second area is giving you granular control over the lifetime of the permission, how long it lasts.
Right, because you said standard Chromium is usually just forever or deny.
Yeah, which often feels like too big a commitment, doesn't it? You might only need access for a minute, but you're forced into this permanent decision.
Oh, definitely. I've absolutely done that. Clicked allow almost reflexively for a quick video call and then thought, wait, do I really want this site having camera access forever? Probably not.
Exactly. So Brave tackles this head-on by adding temporary permission options. So next to allow forever or block, you might see choices like allow for 1 day or even allow until you close the site.
So session-based permission.
Right. It lets you grant access just for the specific task at hand without that lingering permission regret, as you might call it.
That's actually a great way to put it. So I could give a site camera access just for this one browsing session, and the moment I close that tab or window, poof, the permission's gone.
Correct. It automatically revokes it. This really lowers the risk of accidentally leaving the door open to sensitive things like your camera or mic when you don't need to.
It sounds like it encourages a more mindful approach without making it a huge chore for the user. You don't have to constantly remember to go back and manually clean up permissions later.
Precisely. It builds that revocation right into the workflow.
Okay, so Brave gives us this fantastic detailed control, partitioning, temporary access.
Yeah.
Great. But sometimes the more options mean, well, more potential for things to go slightly wrong, or at least seem like they have. Let's talk about troubleshooting. What if you run into a situation, maybe like that listener example, where a site seems broken, maybe even look like a no internet problem right after you denied her permission?
Yeah, that's a good scenario to cover. Now, strictly speaking, declining a permission, like microphone access, shouldn't cause a true no internet error, like your actual connection isn't cut off.
Right.
But it can definitely break website functionality. If a site needs that permission to do its core job and you deny it, the site might just fail to load properly or features won't work, making it look broken or unresponsive.
Okay, so with the microphone example, maybe voice search fails or a web call doesn't connect. It feels broken, even if the page itself loaded.
Exactly. So if you're facing that the site's not working and you suspect it's tied to a permission you recently changed, what's step one?
Where do you start?
The first, and usually the simplest thing, is to check the specific permissions for that website. Just navigate to the site that's giving you trouble.
Okay,
Then look up at the address bar. On the left side, you'll see that little lock icon. Click on that.
got it. The lock icon.
Yep. And in the menu that pops up, click Site Settings. That takes you straight to the permissions list for just that site.
And there I should see things like microphone, location, camera,
Yeah.
and whether they're set to allow, ask, or block, which is Brave's equivalent of never, right?
That's right. So if you see, say, microphone set to block, and you think that might be the issue, you can just click the drop-down menu next to it and change it back to ask or even allow.
Okay, simple enough. What if I'm not sure which permission is the culprit, or I tinkered with a few things and just want to start fresh for that site?
Good question. On that same site settings page, right near the top, there's usually a button that says Reset Permissions.
Ah, handy.
Yeah, just click that. It wipes the slate clean for that specific site, putting all its permissions back to the default settings, which is usually ask.
That reset button sounds like a good go-to if you're stuck. Okay, but what if resetting permissions doesn't fix it? The site still feels broken. What's next?
The next thing to check is Brave Shields. That's the built-in ad and tracker blocker.
Right, the lion icon.
Exactly. Shields are great for privacy, but sometimes, well, they can be a bit too aggressive and block something a site needs to function correctly.
So how do you test that?
Click the lion icon in the address bar for that site. You'll see a big toggle switch at the top. Just flick that switch to turn Shields off for that specific site.
Just temporarily.
Just temporarily. Then reload the page if the website suddenly starts working correctly.
Uh-huh. Then Shields was likely the issue.
Bingo. And you don't have to leave Shields off forever. If it works with them off, you can then try turning them back on, but go into the advanced Shields settings right there in the same panel and maybe try adjusting things like allowing scripts or changing the cookie blocking level just for that site.
Finding that balance between protection and functionality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shields checked. What if that doesn't work either? Site's still broken.
Okay, another really useful troubleshooting step is to try a new Brave profile.
A whole new profile. How does
Uh-huh.
that help with permissions?
Well, think of a new profile as a completely fresh installation of Brave settings-wise. It has all the defaults, no custom permissions you've set up, no extensions carried over unless you add them.
Okay. So how do I make one?
Click your little profile icon, usually in the top right corner of the browser window, then choose Add Profile. It's quick.
And then?
Then, in that brand new, clean profile window, just try visiting the website that was giving you trouble. Let's say it was YouTube. Try loading YouTube in the new profile.
And if it works perfectly there?
It strongly suggests the problem lies somewhere within your main profile settings. It could be an overly strict permission setting you forgot about, maybe even a slightly corrupted setting file specific to that profile.
That's actually a really smart diagnostic trick. It isolates the problem to your specific configuration.
Exactly. Then you can go back to your main profile and investigate further, maybe compare settings, or be more aggressive with resetting things there.
Okay, good step. What if even that doesn't work? The site is broken in a fresh profile too. Now what?
All right, in that case, it's worth diving into the global content settings. These are the master controls.
How do I get there?
Type this into your address bar. Brave.settingscontent, just like a web address.
Brave.settingscontent. Got it.
That page lists all the different permission types: microphone, location, camera, etc. Click into each relevant one, like microphone. Inside, you'll see lists for sites that are specifically blocked or allowed globally.
Ah, so I might have accidentally blocked, say, all of google.com from using the microphone everywhere.
It's possible. Check those blocked lists carefully. If the site you're having trouble with, like google.com or youtube.com, appears in a blocked list, just remove it. There should be an option, like a little X or trash can icon next to the entry.
Right, remove it from the naughty list, essentially. Okay, makes sense. Now, circling back quickly to that no internet feeling, you said permissions aren't the likely cause for that specific message. What else could be up if someone sees that?
Yeah, if you're genuinely seeing a no internet error page, it's more likely a network connectivity issue or maybe something called DNS.
DNS.
Domain name system. It's like the internet's phone book. It translates website names like google.com into the numerical IP addresses computers actually use to connect. Sometimes the cached DNS information on your computer can get stale or corrupted.
Okay, so it's not finding the address properly. Can you fix that?
Often, yes. You can try flushing your DNS cache. It forces your computer to look up fresh address information.
How do I do that? Is it complicated?
Not too bad, but the command is different for Windows and Mac. On Windows, you open the command prompt, just search for CMD, and type ipconfig flushdan, then hit Enter.
ipconfig flushdans. Okay.
On a Mac, you open the Terminal app and type sudo dscashootle-flushcache sudo kilovis hup mdns responder. It's a longer one. Then press Enter. It'll probably ask for your Mac's password because of the sudo.
Right. That looks a bit more complex.
It does, but you just type it carefully. After running the command for your system, it's always a good idea to restart Brave completely. Close it and reopen it. Sometimes that DNS flush resolves those weird can't connect issues. Okay, that's a good fallback for actual connection-style problems. So let's just quickly recap the troubleshooting for permission-related weirdness in Brave.
Sure.
First, check site-specific permissions via the lock icon. Change block to ask or allow, or just reset permissions for that site.
Yep. Step 1.
Step 2, try toggling Brave shields off temporarily using the lion icon. If that works, fine-tune the shield settings.
Good.
Step 3, try a new Brave profile. If the site works there, the issue is likely in your main profile settings.
Right. Isolation test.
Step 4, check the global settings at brave.settings content to make sure the site isn't globally blocked for that permission.
Check the block lists.
And finally, if it really seems like a connection issue, maybe try that DNS flush command for your OS and restart Brave.
That covers the main bases, yeah. Brave's detailed controls are powerful, but knowing these steps helps keep things running smoothly when you hit a bump.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture for you listening? Essentially, Brave gives you way more say over what websites can do and access. It's not just a binary yes or no anymore.
No.
You can really tailor permissions based on context, based on duration, really fine-tune things, both for when you visit a site directly and how it behaves when it's embedded somewhere else.
And those troubleshooting steps we walk through should give you the confidence to manage those settings without worrying you'll break everything.
Right. It's about empowering you. Brave's system, with the temporary options and the partitioning, it sort of nudges you towards being more conscious about permissions. Grant access when needed, but not necessarily forever, not necessarily everywhere.
Exactly. It puts privacy more front and center in the permissions process itself.
Okay, so here's something to maybe think about after this. Go take a look at the permission settings in Brave for a couple of websites you use all the time.
Yeah, good idea.
Click that lock icon, go to site settings, see what you've allowed. Ask yourself, does this site really need location access forever? Or could I use the allow until I close site option for that video conferencing tool?
Explore those granular controls.
Yeah. Think about which permissions you grant most often and whether those temporary options or even just being more aware of the partitioning could give you a better mix of convenience and privacy. You might actually be surprised how much control you really have at your fingertips.